Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. We've got a bit more news here for Monday, and it is about CvC. Obviously, the important bit of news, I told you about it in my fusion plan, but if you missed it, I will be streaming for CvC. It's personal rewards, my first personal reward CvC in my new clan, Cthulhu. So we'll see you there. Or I guess the new clan I'm part of. It's not my clan. But we also have news on the summon events that are going to be happening. I will say there are a couple of really nice champions in here, but again, check out my fusion plan video from earlier if you are doing the fusion, because there's potentially a lot of summon events coming up. So doing this one could be very, very, very expensive. Let's do like green for the... Well, let's look at the voids first. Let's cover the easy part first. We've got void shards, and then we've got the non-void shards. Tuesday, of course, and then Wednesday will be a second set. For the voids, though, on Tuesday, we've got Chalco the Blind, Supreme Kale, and Arathia Corpse Flower. Chalco's a decent pick. Chalco's pretty solid. Let's see the in-game reviews for him. People liking him. Yeah, I found in my testing he's a monster for Hydra, but I think that value falls off a little bit because, I mean, the new fusion's a monster for Hydra, and so was Titus before him. There's only so many Hydra monsters you can have on your account before you've got an overabundance of them. I have seen a few Chalcos in Arena, mostly because of this, right? He's immune to hard crowd control. When an enemy attempts to put one of them on him, he smacks them with his A2, which is block passives, and then it does a debuff spread, even if he kills a target. So he could potentially do an AoE block passives and decrease defense, which is pretty sick. Block passive skills is insanely strong. I've seen a good bit of him in Arena. Like, Armans comes in, does an AoE stun, bam, this guy just one-shots the Armans just right back, you know? So yeah, I've seen him a little bit. I feel like he's good, but he's not top tier in Arena. He's just good. He's super squishy. That's sort of his big problem. But he does do crazy damage. He's got great passive. Supreme Kale, not a big fan of Supreme Kale. I do think he's quite good for Faction Wars hard. But he sort of runs into the problem of being really squishy, which is difficult in this faction. I've actually found Fatalis, believe it or not, to be the best damage dealer overall for the Dark Elves. They've got good supports in the three Void Legendaries, the big three. But I find like they're quite lacking in actually keeping Supreme Kale alive. It's sort of the problem I have. Now, he does put out loads of poisons, and they can't be resisted. So one thing that's pretty interesting with him, build him with an Arachno Elixir, and you can build him with really high attack and speed, and he doesn't need any accuracy. So long as enemies don't have block debuffs, he'll absolutely rip them apart with these poisons, which is pretty cool. Yeah, he's very, very similar to Balar the Lost, really. And they can both do cool stuff, but it's kind of hard to make them work. Supreme Kale sort of suffered from not having a great place in the meta, right? Increase accuracy, decrease resist that can't be resisted, AoE poisons, debuff extension, even as the weak in A1. Like, it's a great skill set, but where is that super useful in the game? There's just not many places where it is super useful in the game. It's like okay for Chimera, but only okay. Sort of same thing with Balar the Lost. Like, you're kind of better off just using a Marius or, you know, something like that. So he's okay, but not crazy. Arathia Corpse Flower, though, I think is even worse. I think she just sucks, man. So she's a damage dealer. Yeah, that feels about right. She's a damage dealer for the Sylvan Watchers. So she's increased accuracy on your team, Death Brand on someone, and AoE Hex. And she gets a bunch of turn meter and block damage. So the idea is, ooh, a buff up with AoE Hex. She gets turn meter boost and block damage. Yeah, then she comes in with an AoE that does more damage for more enemies under Hex. She gets a bunch of turn meter, and she's just cycling through. Even more turn meter boost over here. And as she's killing enemies, she starts getting stronger and stronger. Now, the problem with her is that she sucks. Her damage is just really bad. It's absolutely not worth the hassle. She's probably pretty okay for Faction Wars, but I think, look, everyone just got Lemonisi for free. And I think people don't really like Lemonisi too much. Oh, never mind. Like, it's okay. Like, Lemonisi's gonna be fine. She's going to be very squishy, but she'll absolutely rip through Faction Wars. Miss Rider Dahi, as you guys know, one of my favorite champions. He rips through Faction Wars as well. I really don't feel like you need her for Faction Wars, and she's so shit you wouldn't use her anywhere else. So I would, in fact, let me remove the dot. Let's just put a red dot. In fact, I would not. If let me put it like this: if they said, "Hey, it's 2x voids with a 10x for Arathia Corpse Flower," I'd be like, "Well, shit. I'll wait for the next 2x voids. I don't even want to risk getting her." I get, to be honest, actually, that's not true. She's so shit that she'll probably be buffed. She'll get a buff, I'm sure, at some point. But that being said, there's loads of voids that need buffs and haven't got them yet, so we'll see. Now, Odin would be the big one for me that I would recommend. Odin is Odin. I mean, is it a shocker that he is OP? Well, not OP, but ridiculously good. He is just a monster in Arena. He's got a unique aura, incredibly strong. Yeah, but he's just phenomenal in Arena. I think he's decent elsewhere as well, like AoE buff removal with decreased defense and a stun on a 3-turn. Big enemy max HP nuke. So he's a little bit stat intensive to build, but very powerful. And then his passive is crazy, right? Constantly spamming out block damage, spreading buffs. He's a great champ, yeah, particularly for Arena. He's really, really good. So, yeah, Odin would be a go-to pick because he's so good for Arena. Gergo, I like, but I don't love. I've got a Gergo. I will tell you right now, Gergo is very difficult to use. Very difficult. So he comes in, the AoE buff strip with freeze, and then he does an AoE decreased defense and some damage. So he's sort of like Odin. This is how I put it. I'd much rather have Odin. Odin he's got a general aura. Odin has just a better aura overall. The big problem with Gergo is he's going to need really high speed to go first. He's going to need really high accuracy. Then he's also going to need crit rate, crit damage, and attack to do damage as well. I have a 5-star Gergo, and I find it really difficult to use him. The level of gear that you need is crazy, and the teammates to support him is crazy. Not an easy champion to use, and sort of the issue I've run into is that he's just incredibly squishy. If you put him in stone, you kind of want him with 4 pieces of pinpoint, so he doesn't get polymorphed on these moves, because he can trigger polymorph on both moves. He's very vulnerable to polymorph. You run him in 4 pieces of pinpoint, and you're gonna need like 4-piece lethal, so he actually does some damage. But then you kind of want 4 pieces of stone skin, so he doesn't just die at a stiff breeze if the enemy goes first. He's tricky, so I like it. Actually, I don't like him that much. I like him a good bit. He's phenomenal for faction. Actually, I like him that much. I do. He's phenomenal for Faction Wars hard, but yeah, he's. I feel like he might seem a bit better on paper than he is in practice. I've certainly found him difficult to use in practice. Leorius is solid. I put Leorius on a fairly similar level, maybe slightly less excited about him. Again, it's a faction that really doesn't need any damage for Faction Wars, but he's got 2 big AoEs. They hit very hard, particularly with his passive. So when his HP goes low, he hits really hard. He has this unkillable effect, which synergizes very well with the passive. Immune to crowd control when this skill's not on cooldown. Great. So yeah, he's a good AoE damage dealer. He's good for Arena. He's just not top tier. He was absolutely pretty much the best of the best at one point in the past, but there's just been so many champions since then. I just feel like being a really good AoE damage dealer is tough, right? There's so much competition. It's probably the thing they release most of in the game. So yeah, I think this is overrating him a little bit. I think he's a great champion. I'd be happy enough to have a Leorius, but to be honest, I don't know if I'd actually use him. Whereas Odin would be like, oh shit, I just pulled in Odin. That's crazy. Great. I'm going to change up siege teams. I'm going to change up my arena teams, my live arena strats. Odin's coming in. I don't feel like the same would be said for any of them. So that's the voids. For the non-voids, then, we've got Balar the Lost, Razvar, Gwindelin, Archbishop Pinthroy, and Otharion. For me, I do like Razvar. Again, he's got a similar sort of problem of being an AoE damage dealer in a world where AoE damage dealers are super, super common. But he's a really, really good one. 2 short cooldown moves, increased speed and accuracy for your team, AoE leech. It's nifty. He's got triple hit A1, which is really nice for Fire Knight. He scales off of speed, actually massively so. Great passive, good aura, really good base speed as well. I think he's kind of underrated. So actually, I probably should mark him higher. To Be like, I actually like Razvar a lot. I also like Atharion a lot. I prefer Atharion over Razvar slightly. But yeah, sort of depends where you're at. I know people feel like they struggle with damage dealers for high elves, and Atharion's really good for that. I will say Ethlen is super good for faction wars. Don't sleep on this guy. He's so good. But yeah, Atharion is great. Enemy max HP, double hit with block buffs, decrease attack. Great. Turn meter boosting here. Self buffs. Actually makes him a bit tankier with his passive. Great champ. He's really, really solid. Yeah, can't go wrong with an Atharion. But Razvar is super solid as well. Very solid as well. Then we've got on the net Gwindelin, Archbishop Pinthroy, Balar. We just had an event for Balar, so I feel like if you wanted Balar, you would have gone for that. Be kind of weird to not have enough shards for that, but have enough shards to pull in a progressive for him. Seems strange to me. So I don't think you go for Balar. Yeah. I think Saf actually is going to have a video showcasing his Balar soon. I haven't built mine yet. I think Saf, though, HH Gaming Network, is planning to do a showcase, so check that out when it's live. Gwindelin is decent. Pinthroy's okay. They're both useful for faction wars. Gwindelin is kind of useful for Fire Knight Hard. She's kind of useful for Chimera. You can do a few things, right? Decrease speed leech, AoE, and decrease accuracy. Extends debuffs. Increase accuracy. And this A3 is a little bit weak for me, but her A2 is phenomenal. Really good move. 3 really nice debuffs, and then she gets an extra turn every 3 moves. So she's constantly getting extra turns as well, which is great. She sort of sounds like she does really good damage, but her damage is just not great, right? She's more about debuffing with some okay damage, but really nothing spectacular. The next day, Graos Turndrake, Uzzul of the Jade, Modto of the Peel, Bells of the Reckoner, and Rotus of the Lost Groom. It's an interesting set of champs, actually. Graos is decent. Yeah, I think Graos he's a really solid. My issue with Graos is it's a bit tricky to fit him in anywhere. AoE block buffs decrease defense, then increase defense block damage. He gives you a little bit of a damage boost with his passive. Sort of issue with him is he's got all this ignore defense in his kit. So you're like, oh, that's the X factor. This guy's a good damage dealer, but his damage sucks. So yeah, it's sort of a big problem that really undermines what he's trying to do. I kind of feel like instead of giving him the ignore defense stuff, if this had a HP burn in it as well, it'd be like, okay, now we're talking. Now we got a champion. But yeah, I feel like he's good, but not crazy, and I wouldn't really go out of my way to get him. Like, yeah, he's great for Hydra, but you can just run an Ugo for AoE block buffs and decreased defense, and she brings you a bunch of healing, which is actually for Hydra probably more useful than the whole increased defense block damage thing. So yeah, unfortunately, Graos for me has been one of the biggest disappointment champions of being like, oh yeah, he's really solid, but he doesn't wow me anywhere, and that's sort of what you need to do in 2025, right? If you pulled him early, yeah, great, but I don't know. Now, Uzzul of the Jade, I think this champion does have the potential to wow. I'm not sure how much, but I think he's got a lot of potential, this guy. So he's a new dwarf that hits really hard. He's going to be very squishy. But yeah, so this guy, AoE, number one, he just removes shields, which is cool, and puts decreased defense. But he's got an AoE decreased defense, 3-turn cooldown smack. He's got a 3-turn cooldown that ignores shield, block damage, and unkillable, and stone skin, and 100% defense if he uses it on an extra turn or instant turn. That's spicy. That's very spicy. Then his A1 is pretty decent as well. Straight up gets an extra turn if he kills an enemy, with a chance just anyway. This move, chance for an extra turn, very high on critical hits. He increases chances for extra turns with his passive. This guy has the potential to pop off and be crazy. Now, he's very squishy, but he's got massive damage potential. So this guy to me is kind of exciting. It's just like a nuke, right? He's just a nuclear bomb waiting to go off all these extra turns. He's like a rapid fire nuclear bomb. But yeah, it is a bit random. So I don't know. He might be one of those champs that's like when you fight against him and everything goes right, he's terrifying. But when you try to use him yourself, maybe he's a little bit inconsistent. I'm not sure, but I think he's got really good potential. So I'm going to rate him pretty high. Actually, I'd put him maybe a little bit ahead of Razvar, which is crazy. But maybe Atharion just has that sort of steady consistency and is so useful for dungeons and Hydra and stuff like that, and event dungeon, all of that. Atharion maybe is that more just steady consistency. He actually finds a way into teams, whereas Uzzul's a bit more random. Modto is decent damage dealer with stuns. That's worth considering. Again, he was a bit disappointing to me. This move is great. Big AoE stun, combos with Esme, but they're not in the same faction. This move sounds cool. Way more damage against enemies under Stone Skin. Ooh, exciting. Problem is, this move, his A2, does more damage to Stone Skin. It's just like, what? But I think you might need Esme on the team for the extra hit. But if Esme's on the team, this move does more damage against Stone Skin than the move that does 75% more damage against Stone Skin. Yeah. And then if you remove Stone Skin, he gets an extra turn. The problem here is that it doesn't really do enough damage to remove the Stone Skin. You kind of need crazy gear and a massive blessing. Yeah, I think you use him more as an AoE stun champ. He's got a really good passive. But yeah, I found him a bit disappointing, honestly. Yeah, look, good damage to either AoE stuns. He's cool. Bells is solid enough. Bells definitely feels like more of a budget early game champ. He's cool, but yeah, he comes in. He's got the AoE block buffs and leech with some turn meter. Got a steel buff and it repeats the attack. He's got a decreased defense A1, which does decent damage. And then when he's placing debuffs, he gets more HP and more crit damage. So Bells, he's a decent damage dealer, but nothing crazy. He ramps up over a longer fight. He sort of comes in for Hydra. He brings some nice debuffs, and he's a damage dealer that's never going to die, pretty much. And for Faction Wars, again, he's a damage dealer with pretty good utility on both of these moves, and he's never going to die. And that's sort of Bells. People like him a lot. I don't think his damage is anything crazy, but it's good. He's good, but nothing crazy. Not so good in Arena because he's more about ramping up. Again, I think Bells is like a really solid damage dealer for progression. A big tanky guy. He's ramping up, good utility, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I love him. Now, Rotus, I do like a lot. And Rotus is definitely worth considering, potentially very highly. He'd be my favorite, I think, out of these. I still use my Rotus. He's god tier for Faction Wars, but he's very strong in Arena as well. Just has this huge damage nuke that gives him an extra turn. Very powerful. Then filling up his HP, he's got a really strong defensive passive. Really, really strong. And yeah, just the chance for the extra turn on his A1. This guy really pops off with Merciless because he's going to be ignoring so much defense. He's just killing everything. The extra turn chances are really strong. He can ultimately block Revive, but it does take a long time to get there, but he will get there eventually. The defensive passive is powerful. For him to really pop off, he really wants a 6-star Blessing. And I think he also has got crazy potential with the Death Dealer. If I had a Death Dealer, it's who I'd put it on, because this makes him always crit, so it takes away Affinity. Affinity is his biggest problem. Well, I suppose Ultimate Death Knight is his biggest problem, as a subset of the Affinity problem, because obviously Ultimate Death Knight is red Affinity. But yeah, that's sort of Rotus's biggest issue, but I think a Death Dealer is very strong, so like it will help him kill like Galathir and all the Force Affinity enemies and really take people by surprise. And the Death Dealer negative effect will just help him trigger his extra turn more frequently. Yeah, there's a bunch of tricks to this passive. Like if his HP gets destroyed, it just triggers this more often. It does some weird stuff. Again, the Ward of the Fallen Blessing really helps with this. Aspect of Siroth can help with this as well, though like I said, I prefer him with damage relics, honestly. But yeah, I think Rotus is really good. The only bad thing about Rotus is, again, he is a damage dealer in a game where damage dealers are all over. Like, we are swimming in damage dealers. And that's something for me. I find him a little bit difficult to use. Well, not difficult to use, but I find I don't pick him all that often at the moment. Obviously, he's got his combo with Sifi as well. But, you know, it depends how many damage dealers you have. But, like, for me, I've got him +1, actually. I'd like to get him +2 for the extra stats. But I do find him, I find I pick Empress instead, And then, like, I also have Nice and Marius, and you start to run out of gear as well for the champions, but it's worth considering. He's quite a weird one with gear as well. It's worth noting. So he does super well with flat HP. So he wants attack. This ring's actually not a great example. This banner's a perfect example. He wants flat HP on like his ring and his banner and stuff like that, but he wants attack percent. The reason is that his base HP sucks, so HP percent's not actually that good. But his base attack's really solid, so he loves attack percent. But then he scales really well off HP. So you do want the flat HP. So one of the only champs in the game that's built like it. Also means he scales up very, very, very well. Also with, speed, of course. Defense is good on him as well to keep him alive, but he loves speed. He loves crit rate, crit damage. Definitely a champion who benefits from very high investment. So having him empowered, having him 6-star, having a kick-ass relic on him, having insane merciless gear, that Rotus, he just really thrives. And any power creep stuff in the future, by the way, like I think a bunch of the relics are particularly good for him. Any new systems for power creep, like relics or blessings, that they add to any champions, because Rotus benefits from so many things, will benefit him very much more than other champions. So I do like Rotus a heck of a lot. So there you go. I'd be putting Odin number 1, and I put Rotus number 1, actually, to be honest. I put Atharion, and you know what? I'll put in Uzzul, actually, as joint second. I'd maybe give Chalco a second place over here. And that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, those are the champs, roughly speaking. So that's who I pull for. That being said, again, for me, it's only a progressive chance event. Maybe I should reiterate this more at the start of the video, but I mentioned it in my fusion plan today. We know there's going to be an event for Shayak, and obviously the fusion for Crocat has already started. I would personally much more highly value saving shards to complete the fusion for Crocat, because that is, I mean, you've got a great general idea for what you've got to do for a fusion, hopefully, and that you get a champion at the end of it, and he's really good, right? And then same thing with Shayak. The two of them together are extremely good. And, you could pull so many shards. You could pull tons of shards in a progressive event and get nothing, whereas this is, a set number of shards, you get guaranteed value. And that, to me, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. Or brush. Any sort of foliage. Your hand is better than foliage for several things. Oh, God. Going off track. We're going off track. Bring it back. But yeah, I think that this is a bit of a tough sell for me. Like, Odin is one to chase. That's the big one I would say. Odin is one to chase, and potentially I could see people chasing the Rotus, stuff like that. Potential, some chasers. But I think prioritizing Shayak and Crocat for more people is the better thing to do with your limited resources. So there you go. Guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. I will see you for the CvC stream tomorrow, where I won't be pulling shards, but we will be grinding like a maniac. So I'll see you for that. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye.